Popcorn Junkies. It's me and Maddie on our own. I'm beginning to wonder whether we should start a whole playlist called horror.
Yeah,
it's like
just
horror.
Me and you and all of them.
Just me and you with all of them. So we're watching Pet Sematary, 2019 version. Sematary, spelled S-E-M-A-T-A-R-Y. Now, people have answered this and said it's spelled with an S because a child scrawls the S over the C. Still doesn't explain why the rest of it's spelled incorrectly.
I just think it's all spelled incorrectly because the kids can't spell it.
Right, so it's just
they did
general kids
like
spelling.
A bit in the film.
You probably noticed that when I do this with my head, my hair bounces back. Obviously, it's a film based on the Stephen King novel, but it's also the second film incarnation, the first film being in 1989. Now, I thought I remember watching it, but I don't think I did, because I've looked it up and I don't remember anything other than one of our subscribers ably informs me that it's the boy who becomes the first victim within the family, not the girl.
Oh.
Now, we saw several trailers for this. How are you feeling after the trailers?
So, with the first trailer, I think we all agreed that we didn't think it looks very good.
It's a bit average.
It was looking very like it was going to be mainstream horror.
Yes.
Just kind of all the same. You know when you're going to jump. You know what's
jump
gonna
shots
happen.
you call them.
I was more excited about the film after the second trailer.
Yes. And then the last trailer was really good.
The last trailer, yeah.
I mean, I must admit, I kind of went into this viewing it as a sort of one of those, a real exercise in genre horror. I didn't think we were going to get anything too inventive. I thought it was going to be a sort of, methodical A, B, C, D, E, F. I mean, let's just talk about the cast. So we've got Jason Clarke in it, who we know I have a man crush on. He's the guy from Everest. He plays the the expedition leader. He's recently in Aftermath.
He's also in Great Gatsby, actually.
He was in The Great Gatsby, that's absolutely right. I think he brings a very sort of understated, he's a very unsensational actor.
He underplays,
yeah.
But I like it.
I don't know the actress who plays his wife, and I don't know the children.
Stranger Things.
Oh, was she? Who does she play in that?
When Eleven meets her mother, who's in a rocking chair like this.
She's the one
she plays like the aunt, so she's like the sister of the mother.
But of course, another character in this who we do love and we're very fond of is John Lithgow, who has been, in many
Daddy's
films.
Home.
But most recently, Daddy's Home, playing Will Ferrell's father.
Yeah.
And he was also Churchill in The Crown. I think he was also in Meet the Hendersons or something in the Hendersons where he played a Yeti. Did he play the Yeti? Correct me if I'm wrong. Did John Lithgow play a Yeti? He might have done. So this family, they head out, the Creeds, from Boston into the countryside so they can effectively spend more time with their daughter. They want a quality of life move. Kind of thing me and Nadia would do.
Yeah.
Except we've done it in London. How did you find the introduction of the Pet Sematary concept? Quite quickly you're shown that they live on the edge of a wood, and in the wood there's a cemetery.
Yes.
And they experience it firsthand by a group of kids walking through with the masks on.
Yeah. I quite liked it, but I feel like they could have added more to that whole with the kids, walking with the masks. It was the only time we really saw them do that. And I felt we were going to see a bit more of them.
I thought they could have been a bit more creative in the it could have been a bit more mystical. It felt literally like a signpost. Kids go in, lots of gravestones, and then there's a tall bank of... I mean, the point about the cemetery is that beyond the cemetery, up this scrabbly bank, there's something far more profound.
Yeah.
And John Lithgow is almost the sort of guardian of the area, isn't he? He knows what happens there. He's lived there his whole life. He's kind of aware of what the kind of strength of the land is. There's the inference, again, like with Stephen King's great novel, The Shining, that beneath this land there perhaps was a Native American burial or ownership thing, which is quite rich. It's always quite rich, that, in American horror. I remember reading the story and not seeing the film when I was about your age, and I remember thinking, for saying it's called Pet Sematary, the cemetery is almost by the by.
Yeah, that's like not the...
It's not the central piece. The Pet Sematary is a sort of conduit or a gateway, isn't it? It's the gateway to discovering that you've got this facility to bring things essentially back to life.
Yeah.
I did like the way Jason Clarke delivered all of the stuff about... Do you remember? What was the stuff he was saying about the afterlife and all that?
I mean, the main character's really the daughter.
Yeah. And he's a surgeon, doctor.
And he's a doctor, and... The mother's just, I think, a housewife. She just works at home. But basically, she had like a really traumatic experience when she was younger with her sister.
Yeah, her backstory was interesting, wasn't it?
I found it scarier than the main
See what
story.
I did there? Backstory.
You evil little man. So basically, she's very scared of death, and she's like talking about it. And like the girl's at an age now, and of course she finds a pet cemetery where she's asking questions about death. And because he's a doctor, there's something he just is
Yeah, he's so pragmatic about it, isn't he?
Whereas the mother's trying to make it seem more magical.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you know, they go to heaven and all of this. He was like, well, we don't know that for sure.
Yeah, he was almost as blunt with you as I imagine I could have been.
Yeah.
Because, you know,
which I think's better. I think all of this.
Do you think?
La 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 la.
So describe for us the horror, because in a weird way, there's the horror of what happens in this film, but I think the hidden treat of this film is actually the horror surrounding the mum's sister. And her backstory.
Those bits really scared me.
Yeah, but the story around her sister was really got to me.
Yeah.
You know, the close-ups on her feet, and basically her sister suffers from some form of
So her sister's
illness.
got like it was like a twisted spine.
That's
what
right.
She said. So her spine was really messed up, so she couldn't walk or anything.
Yeah.
And she'd just stay in her bed. And the mum, when she was a little girl, was like left by her parents to deal with her. So she'd have to go and feed her every morning and night.
Yeah.
But she was really scared of her because the sister with the back problem hated her because she didn't have
a bad back.
Back. The little girl becomes so scared of her sister that she decides to use it. What do you call
They're called a dumb waiter.
Dumb waiter.
Dumb waiter, as in it's like a dumb waiter.
Dumb waiter.
Yeah.
She decides to send the food up on one of them because she's too scared to see her sister. And it doesn't work very well.
Ooh, it's such a horrible scene.
She sends up and we just hear it, and then we hear like the sister drag herself along the floor from upstairs. It was horrible. I was like, oh my god. And then obviously you hear her coming down in the dumbwaiter, and then it opens the door and it's like the food and it's like all over the place, isn't
everywhere.
it? And then the body like falls down.
I mean, I have to say,
all twisted.
Yeah.
Oh, it was just horrific.
I mean, I've never seen a dumbwaiter used like a dumbwaiter's used in this film for horror.
I mean, yeah, I've seen quite a few horrors where they've used it, but not like that.
No, I thought this was most effective, and there was a second moment later in the film, I won't ruin, where in a sort of sequence, the dumbwaiter's invoked again with a really shocking moment where there's
the mirror.
Yeah. And but the thing I found a little kind of poetic excitement with the dumbwaiter, because did you know there was one scene where at some point the dumbwaiter comes down and blood pours out from underneath the bottom of it. It was like a dumbwaiter is essentially an elevator for food.
Yeah.
It was a little bit reminiscent of the elevator in The Shining, with the blood pouring out.
Yeah,
you know that famous shot?
Yeah.
A little bit of a Kubrick moment there, maybe. So the horror of the mum's sister is quite...
And the back, when we see the back.
Oh God, the back. I mean, it reminded me of, I don't know if you've seen it yet, but An American Werewolf in London, that sort of... And that's what I meant. When I came out of this film, one of the things I said to Maddie was I found it's not set in the 80s, and it doesn't look like it's in the 80s or 90s, but it felt very, what I would call lo-fi, L-O-F-I. Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah.
Sort of almost analogue-y. And what I mean by that is, there wasn't loads of CGI, there wasn't lots of kind of supernatural...
No, there really
wasn't.
There was any CGI.
There were kind of real effects. It was real makeup, it was real prosthetics, it was sort of
the kind of
real
jump
horror.
Scares were quite...
Yeah, and the jump scares were... I mean, the first biggest scare in the film...
That truck.
I mean, I nearly threw my phone across the cinema.
It's going to sound quite shocking to say, but it's probably... I've never jumped that hard.
No, it's weird.
Because it was so unexpected.
It was so
unexpected. It
unexpected.
wasn't even a scary thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely
So
right.
loud. I literally went like that.
Yeah, it was so frightening. And in that sense, I thought the way it operated in horror, although it was in many regards, a very standard horror film, I quite liked the way it wasn't too flamboyant in the way it tried to be horrific. So, for example, the daughter was very horrible at the point that she turned and come back. And it gave you enough space to be thinking about. And I thought the really clever conundrum at the centre of this film, and I don't know what you thought of this, was, you know, if I lost one of my daughters and I had the opportunity to bring you back, I absolutely would.
Really?
But then when faced with the horror of bringing you back, would you? I mean, if I died, would you?
I definitely wouldn't have done it after bringing that cat back and seeing what.
True, they did have a few forewarnings.
I would definitely debate it because obviously I love you. But at the end of the day, dead is better.
Dead is better.
No, well, I just think that once you're dead, it means something that you're dead, doesn't it? It doesn't mean you should come back.
I thought there was a very powerful scene between the father and the daughter once he'd brought her back, where you could see her asking him, "What is this? Where am I?" Although it doesn't go exploring these great big grand questions, I thought Jason Clarke was a strong enough performer, and I thought there was enough space within the film for you to sit there thinking about this stuff.
Yeah.
You didn't have any of those classic moments where you had the police trying to come round and help and break in and all that sort of stuff. There was one particularly gruesome moment with John Lithgow, wasn't there? Oh, Jesus Christ. So there are some really, you know, so I suppose what I'm trying to say is if you're wanting to go out for that sort of horror, you know, those jump scares, a bit of gruesome, a little bit of thought-provoking, it didn't hang around either as a film, did it? I thought it kind of moved along. Quick. And it's been a long time.
And I wanted to say something.
Yeah.
I liked that, because obviously there was the typical thing of the moving house again, which is like every horror film, you know, even Jordan Peele's.
Yeah, true.
But I liked how the house wasn't purposefully creepy.
Yes, I liked that.
It was, yeah, because, you know, usually when in a horror film, and you know, they go into a house that they've just moved into, and you're looking at it and you're like, who would move into that house? I mean, come on, like, it's so obvious that's terrifying.
Yes, it was quite a modern build.
It was just quite
like,
it looked like it would be normal. And the house itself wasn't haunted. So I did like that they didn't go too predictable and
What about the little boy?
Oh my God, the little boy broke my heart. That poor thing didn't know what was going on.
Maybe because the actor was so cute, the directors decided they'd make it the girl that died.
How do you get little kids to cry like that? I mean, whatever you're doing, obviously.
Just jab them really hard. With a really pointy stick.
I feel like it's not that hard. Maybe they get them to play for ages until they fall over and they go, quick, roll the cameras.
Poke them in the eye, or just take away their drink. Oh yeah, the student who died.
That was really horrible.
That was
like, his brains are coming out.
I thought Jason Clarke did a very good job of showing us a man of medicine, science and logic, slowly shifting over to the dawning realisation that, my God, there's something really horrendous.
Yeah.
I also felt that the idea of unearthing your dead daughter or dead cat and reburying it on a hill or a mountain that was infused with the fog.
Oh right, yeah.
I haven't seen that since the Thriller video. There were moments, and that's what I mean, it wasn't 80s, but it was like they were using that artificial fog coming through the undergrowth. You know, so the idea that you bury something and it comes out, that was quite lo-fi as well. It's quite a simple idea, isn't it? Unearth it, rebury it.
Yeah.
You were never really explained why.
Yeah,
not even in
true.
a supernatural sense. I mean, you've got no explanation as to what the hell's going up on that hill.
Yeah, how did it actually happen?
Yeah, what's the science behind it?
Maybe something about the dust.
Big spoiler. I thought it was a really strong image at the end, where you were left with the boy in a car with his newly adopted family wandering towards him. Dead.
And the cat. He's literally the only living one.
But my problem with the cat was, however evil the cat got, it wasn't half as evil as Nanny Thelma's cat. Or most cats I've known.
Missy was lovely.
Most cats are bloody horrible. And this cat seemed quite nice at points.
Oh God, yeah, when you tried to kill it, and I was like, look at his eyes.
One big quibble. When it scratched the girl, the scratch looked really pants. It was like 3 lines.
It wasn't like a standout film this year. There were like moments in it where I was like, this is just getting predictable and supernatural. Yeah. Like that bit when he was burying the girl and he saw that figure in the forest, and I was like, okay, yeah, typical.
Yeah.
There were a few moments like that which were just a bit cringe, because you're like, I so knew that was going to happen.
Yeah, and there's a lot of what I call trashy horror films like Truth or Dare or I Feel Happy Death Day. That I feel trot out. Okay, they might have a very innovative concept at the front, but then they get quite lazy in the execution of the horror. Yeah. Whereas I thought this wasn't particularly, this isn't firing off any lighters, and this isn't particularly breaking any rules or new territory. Yeah. But I thought it delivered a very workmanlike.
Yeah, and I thought the
horror film.
Father and the mum and the dad were very good at acting. I really did like the ending, because it could have, as well as everything else it had done, finished with trying to, complete the story. But it left it very unfinished, and I like that, because you're like, so what the hell did happen to that boy? Did they kill it? Raise him as a... Yeah,
it's neat just to leave one question mark. Yeah. They didn't finish off the family, they just left you thinking, Christ, what was the next thing that happened?
Yeah. Also, I saw another horror film that the 2 directors made.
Oh, did you?
Called The Holidays, which was really messed up.
Yeah, the directors are Kevin Kölsch and Dennis Widmyer. Yeah,
and I think they've got a thing of not using too much CGI, because when I watched Holidays, a lot of it was makeup.
Oh, right, okay.
And made things. Like I said, bits of it really freaked me out, like the whole sister situation. Yeah. I was like, many times.
That was really, I keep forgetting that was in there. When you remember that, you think, no, actually, that was pretty damn creepy.
I think the biggest problem with it was just it didn't have a strict storyline. I didn't know which bit we were following, if we were following the sister, or Pet Sematary, or what the hell was going on behind that pile of sticks. Either way, I had a good time. I'd say go and see it with a group of friends if you want to be jump scared a bit, but it's not anything groundbreaking.
No, it's not like us. It's not Hereditary.
It's not like us.
It's not like us.
I'd give it probably like a 5.
Yeah, 5 out of 10. I think that's reasonable. I thought this was a very competent, workmanlike horror film. You know, when you've got films like Us coming out, and you've got films like Get Out, and you've got things like Hereditary, and the new film by the Hereditary director, Midsommar. You know, this is quite a tame thing. But if you fancy a little bit of retro Stephen King nostalgia, I think it's quite nice. That said, I think any good horror film has to set out the rules of engagement quite clearly.
Yeah.
And I think as a viewer and as a horror fan, you're very willing to accept what those rules of engagement are, i.e., this is the setup, this is a burial mound, this is You don't need it all explained, but you need to have some consistency in the logic. And I felt they dropped the ball a bit with the whole going up to the cliff with the dry ice and all that malarkey.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And I thought they had the richest thing in the sister. And I thought that was great. I thought they could have had even more of that with the mum. I would have probably focused on even more of that sister haunting her mum and all that.
But the death of the girl was pretty brutal.
That was. The truck. Yeah, I think she'd have been a bit messier after impact. Properly mangled.
Squished, really.
Yeah, she'd have been really squished. I quite fancy that. I always wanted a character like the one
in staples in the back of the head.
Staples in the back of the head. That was a lovely moment because every father can relate to that. Because gives new meaning to getting tangles out of your daughter's hair.
Just goes, what is it? What is it?
Just a tangle. God, it's your head's just been stapled together.
I remember when you were always given the job to dress me and Kiki, and our clothes would always be inside out and back to front.
Yeah, inside out. But it was because you had stapled heads. I'd give it 5 out of 10 as well.
Because it wasn't terrible.
It wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible.
Great.
For more film and family fun, don't forget to click the subscribe button and make sure to click the bell to never miss an update.